And that goes for fans all around the world as well, and the involvement that you have from them. And of course, that doesn't go away because we're going to be able to see these games taking place. And in some ways, that match day experience doesn't change if you're watching it from a distance. But there's going to be all these new players coming in. The transfer window open until October the 5th. It's been delayed because obviously world events and all that. But what do you think? What do you think of the business that's been done over this transfer window, this affected transfer window?
Well, there's been some unbelievable business. I think that Chelsea and even before, when Chelsea had the little ban, they still managed to get Kovacic and Pulisic over the line there. Then once they've now got to a stage where they can sign, they've literally gone to town on it, and to the point where it's probably going to be a season where Frank will be now really under the microscope in respects of how he's going to get that team to perform. You know, you've got Thiago Silva's going to come in, the experience. When you look how much goals they shipped, was it 54 or something like that, Dan? So you're looking at a Chelsea, and you cannot help but be excited for them.
No.
You know, you're looking at Liverpool. I was quite excited for Liverpool, thinking they might get Thiago Alcantara, because if they do, it's the kind of signing that they haven't made any real signings. Liverpool, apart from I think it's Simakis, from the left back to help with Andy Robertson. But you're thinking to yourself, they need something, because, like you said, and I think you're right, I don't think they're going to run away with it, because everybody saw that, you know, Chelsea, the way Chelsea have responded, Man United are going to have to respond. We saw the difference that's happened with one signing. So if they make a couple more, I just feel that that now, in respects of the league and not let teams run away with it, the signings have been very significant, and even more so, the lack of signings.
Yeah, Chelsea and Liverpool seem to kind of sum up the effect or lack of effect that COVID has had on this transfer window. Yeah. Obviously, Chelsea have got money left over from not spending it or not being allowed to spend it previously. But you look at someone like Timo Werner and the way that played out. The player appeared to be keen to go to Liverpool, couldn't get that deal over the line, and is now very happy to be at Chelsea.
And you saw the goal he scored against Spain as well on the international tour. He looks like a real footballer. I mean, I'll let the masters talk about that. But I think as far as... There is one small point to make on this, is that fans will be looking with interest at the money that's being spent, because during the lockdown, football was telling us we're facing a financial crisis and players need to take pay cuts. Some players did, some players didn't. Those players got vilified who didn't. But now fans are looking at the game and seeing 60, 70 million pounds being spent on footballers. Clubs demanding 50 million. I mean, James Tarkowski is a good example. He's a wonderful footballer. His numbers were great last season. He's a real leader. Is he a 50 million pound player? I would suggest not. It's not his fault that his price tag, but a lot of fans will be looking and saying, you were telling us that you were facing a cash crisis, and now you are trying to get clubs to spend huge amounts of money on footballers. And that would stick in the craw for people who, A, can't get into games, and B, you know, are struggling and having to pay high season ticket money to subsidise these clubs. So there is that small point. Sorry to get in the hobby.
But it comes back to how the clubs are financed differently and how affected they've been by this crisis. The ones that are run, Liverpool and Chelsea being big differences probably in this.
They are, and I think Liverpool in particular are being very sensible about the way they go about their business for two reasons really. A, because of, as you say, the financial issue, but also because, and I'm sure the guys will give me more insight on this, but when you have a winning mentality at a football club, and when you have a dressing room, your dad knows all about this, you know, when you've got a dressing room that is a unit and is a juggernaut, you have to be very careful what you add to it. You know, Newcastle, this is just Aspria, but Newcastle just completely lost their momentum when they signed him. He's the only one I can think of at the moment. But I think that's what Klopp is doing. Klopp is being very careful.
What about fans, though, from a Liverpool point of view? Because, like, for me, we're talking about Timo Werner there as well, Darren, and you think to yourself, Liverpool, the way they waited for Van Dijk, because that's who they wanted. In the end, they thought they paid too much. Obviously, he's proven that it's more than value for money. I can't understand when you look at how Mane, Salah and Firmino have been injury-free for such a long time, why they didn't pursue that, because we know that Timo Werner wanted to go for that. I'm sure, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm quite worried about that. I'm quite worried about that signing not happening.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. But again, Timo Werner looks like a footballer who needs to play. I don't think he looks like a footballer who'd be prepared to sit on the bench while Mane on the left side, for example, is running right, scoring goals for fun as he did last season and making decisive impacts in games very often. I think that it may well have been indicated to him that it wouldn't be the case and he'd have to wait for his chance. And maybe he felt that if he goes to Chelsea, that's not going to be the case. He will start football matches every week. So there is that. But I also think as far as Liverpool are concerned, I wouldn't worry too much. I remember the season when they signed Van Dijk. And before that, they'd done a really good job of convincing everyone that they had no money, you know. And it always seems to be the case with Liverpool in recent seasons that they play their cards very close to their chest. You don't know what their transfer business is going to be.
And you look at Firmino's goal return, that's got to be a worry. Yeah. I know that they scored goals and they've done what they needed to do, but you need to fill that gap. You can't go into, for me, Liverpool go into a season now and a City that's going to be coming at them and with one of their strikers who's not performing.
Listen, I actually hear what you're saying. Forgive me, Tim. I actually thought, and knocked me out of the park for this one, but I wondered if they could maybe have a little tickle at Aubameyang. Change the way they play.
Bro, man. No.
Is he not about to become Arsenal's
don't make that kind of trouble.
He's got a year left on his contract. If you went in, he'd jump at the chance to play Champions League football. His goal record demands that he plays elite level football. And
well, Klopp knows him from Dortmund anyway. So.
Absolutely.
I worry not only for the fans, because when you win the league, the fans want new signings. Yeah. But so do the players in their dressing room, which is crucial. You need to freshen it up. They'll be looking around at each other and say, yes, we were very close the year before. We won it last year. We've won the Champions League, but we still need to build. They're not fools. I think Jurgen will be the same. I think they've got the best sporting director in the business in Michael Edwards. I think he knows, he nitpicks. He's not just going to spend the owner's money willy-nilly. He's going to target, like Wright said, you get Van Dijk, you get Alisson. They needed to fix a problem, which they had was the central defence and the goalkeeper, and they did that to dramatic effect. Now they need to go, but I agree, they need to go and get someone. We did it at Blackburn. We won the Premier League. We never went and strengthened. Zidane and Gary were at our training ground that summer after. We never got them over the line. We never got hardly anyone in the door. It was stale after that, and it just went downhill. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that it's going to happen to Liverpool, but they've got to be very cautious of this.
But cautious because the other teams there are teams who are spending money behind them, trying to catch up with them. But do we think that even from a Liverpool perspective that, say, Thiago deal doesn't go through, and that's the one that looks most likely at the moment, could they actually take a step backwards as well?
Well, I think so, because I think that when you look at Liverpool from the midfield area, they need that player. Just like they needed, like Tim said, Alisson. It was blatantly obvious, we saw what was going on with the goalkeepers and the centre-half, because unfortunately what was happening with Lovren and the mistakes, they made those signings and they've been magnificent. They need that creative Thiago in there to help with the guys up front. They need, that's the next thing in their building block.
See, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying I'm not panicking as much, because I think there's still time in the window.
Because they need something else.
I think people are going to come. They will sign Thiago. Thiago doesn't want to play for Bayern anymore. He's made it clear to Bayern. Bayern have admitted that he doesn't want to play for them anymore. He's got a year left on his contract.
He's got a few days off at Bayern, hasn't he, Thiago, to get himself together?
He will. I think he'll end up at Anfield, and I think it will literally be a question of how much he goes for.
He's the kind of guy that can, like you say, Tim, if he comes to the dressing room, just like we was hearing about Messi might be going to see, if he comes to your dressing room, Thiago, you are absolutely over the moon. Absolutely. That is the kind of lift that takes Liverpool. People say, here go Liverpool again. I'm telling you.
You don't need 3 or 4 then, you just need 1 and maybe 2. Also, they've got to be they've got a very good academy there. We saw the young kids who have come through. Chelsea, going back to them. What I hope for Chelsea's sake and for them young boys who have come through, by default, have had an opportunity because of the ban what they had and the manager who took over and Frank Lampard who liked them. Hopefully their pathways are not getting blocked up. If they're getting blocked up now, we might not see him again. I don't want Chelsea to go back to the old way where it's just throw money at it. It doesn't always work. You need to nurture and develop your young talent. They've shown how good they are when they get an opportunity.
I was about to ask you, when you were at Spurs, no, I was actually covering Spurs when you were at Spurs, and you brought Harry through, Harry Kane. Did you determine that you were going to play him regardless of whoever else Daniel brought to the club?
When they sold Gareth Bale, it was a year after I took over, and they sold Gareth, and they spent that money on 7 or 8 players. Now, only Christian Eriksen, I think Lamela, was left in recent times. The rest of them weren't good enough. They went by the wayside. But what they actually did is knock the life out of the academy. You might as well have boarded it up and put a health spa on that side of the dressing room. They took the life out of it because these boys all of a sudden believed they wasn't going to get a chance because they brought in average players from across the world who wasn't good enough or wasn't 100% better than them. And they was never going to get the opportunity. He was getting limited opportunity anyway. And I was always pushing them saying, you're going to get the chance, you're going to get the chance. But when these players come in and took their place, they were big money signings, and the manager, Villas-Boas at the time, felt pressure that he had to play them in front of the kids because he never watched a youth team game anyway. Then it was a real problem. But we managed to keep him alive, and Harry come later. So when Harry got into the team, Soldado, who was a big money signing from Spain, a great lad, tried his best. But I just judged them on a level playing field. Who's performing the best in training? And Harry Kane was head and shoulders above this kid. That's why he got his chance. And that is what Frank Lampard did at Chelsea. And hopefully now he doesn't feel pressured to just play the big money signings.
It's why I think it's quite interesting to look at all those signings, because there are the ones that have come in for a lot of money. But also it could be a free signing in Thiago that is maybe the most significant because they've brought in somebody who isn't taking a place from one of the younger kids, but is providing experience next to whoever it is that he plays alongside.
And they can learn. I'm not saying they're not good to bring these signings from all over the world, if they're good types as well. He looks like a really good type. If you're coming an academy boy and you're watching Thiago playing in the midfield, you can only but learn from him. I mean, he's an excellent player. And let's face it, you're not going to find a player like him through your academy every day. You know, so these boys, if they get, I'm not opposed to bringing players in. We want to see the best players in the world in the Premier League, but not at the expense of our young kids who are coming through, unless they are really better. I
think at Liverpool, Curtis Jones and Nico Williams, they have already shown that they've got the talent to fight for their place at the very least at Liverpool. I think at Chelsea it's a different story, and I agree with you. And it'd be very interesting to see who is driving that, because I know Jody Morris and Frank Lampard are very big champions, much like yourself, of the young talent, because they'd worked with them, they know them. That Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham have thrived under them, and he's done a terrific man management job with them as well. So it's interesting whether he wants that or whether Marina and Roman want those high caliber players because they're back in the Champions League and they feel that they need to be.
Having said that, they do have some really exciting, really expensive talent coming in that we are all desperate to see. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that this guy, Timo Werner, for a start, like Darren, you rightly mentioned the goal he scored, and I watched him in the premium that competition before the World Cup when he was out there with Germany with Goretzka and all those guys, and you watch him and you think to yourself, you can see what it is.
What is it? I mean, the goal he scored against Spain. What's so good about him that makes
it's the sharpness, it's the clinic, it's just how clinical he is, and he's got. When you look at the way he is, you know, when you look at a strike, you say he knows he's going to score. He's got a kind of persona about him where you feel like, I'm going to Chelsea and I am going to score and I'm going to do very well. So this is why you look at a Tammy and the guys and you have to think to yourself, you need to kind of tap into how he thinks. Because when I watch him and he's going, I think, he's going to score. You watch him walk out, he's got a look on his face where I'm going to score, I'm going to link, I'm going to do my stuff, and I'm going to score. He's got it. He's got the striker vibe. Like what Shearer was like. You look at Shearer, you watch Shearer walk into a room, he looks like, if there's a goal in there, I'm going to score it in this room. He just looks like that. Teddy Sheringham, I used to have Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler. You know, you look at playing and he's got that.
Well, he's got no interest, right, is he, in any other part of the game apart from scoring. And he can play, he's flexible, he can play all across the front three. You know, he allows him to play in different ways. That's why I'm so surprised Liverpool never went for him. You know, because he can play off the left, he can play down the middle, off the right-hand side with the fluidity what they have in their strike balls. Chelsea have got him, he will score goals. He's played for unfashionable sides. This is the biggest side he's ever going to play for. In my opinion, I think he'll be there for a long, long time, and he will score bundles of goals and take them where they need to be this season. And Wright is absolutely right. There's pressure on Frank Lampard this season. He needs to win something this year. I'm not saying the Premier League. I think he needs to win a trophy, and he certainly needs to be in a Champions League again.
So how's he set up then?
I think he's flexible the way he sets up. He's shown that this year, but I think we're adding like Kai Havertz and the likes of Timo Werner. I think it gives them them options. I like Thiago Silva. I think he's a fantastic signing for him. I mean, he's an older head, but he can help the likes. I mean, they're talking about Tomori possibly going on loan to Everton. That would be a shame because I think he could benefit from staying around and playing a few games with Thiago Silva. I think he's a great short-term signing for him.
I agree. Listen, when we covered Chelsea last season, the one aspect of Chelsea that is always existent is the pressure on the manager. And Lampard handled it particularly well. And there was always this view that if they were to get into the Champions League, they'd do something. But nobody expected they would do what they've done so far. And they are still trying to sign another goalkeeper. Edouard Mendy from Rennes, who wants to come. I think it's going to be around £30 million or something. And I think that will be, if they can get him as well as Thiago Silva, then defensively they'll be a lot stronger. And that's going to be the key as to whether Frank Lampard does well this season or not.
It could be a really big season for Chelsea. The potential is all there. It's whether or not it comes together on the pitch.